What did Stephen Hawking do? Why is he famous? His father was a well-known barrister who specialized in company law, and his mother was a busy secretary. In fact, his parents had been trying to get her pregnant for some time, and when she finally conceived, they were quite relieved. Sure, he was struggling physically, but mentally he was sharper than ever. After receiving his diagnosis, he began working more diligently than ever before, and it paid off. It explored topics such as light cones, wormholes, and black holes, and attempted to answer some of the deepest questions about the universe, such as, how did it begin, and is there life after death? He appeared on television shows such as The Simpsons and Star Trek, and even had a cameo role in the film Contact. Stephen was incredibly curious about the universe, and he never stopped asking questions. This led him to make some of the most important discoveries about space and time. However, his curiosity didn't just extend to the cosmos. He was passionate about learning and sharing his knowledge with others. And if you haven't done so already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to our channel now and join the growing list of people who enjoy nothing more than hearing about the amazing stories of the brilliant minds that have shaped our world. Until next time, keep thinking, and I'll see you soon. He wanted to make science accessible to everyone, and he believed that anyone could learn about the universe if they were willing to put in the effort. He once said, "Science is not only a profession, it's a way of looking at the world." This quote reflects his belief that science isn't just about formulas and equations. It's about understanding the world around us and our place in it. Stephen Hawking was a true inspiration to everyone who knew him. He showed us that it is possible to achieve great things despite physical limitations, and that it is important to never stop learning and exploring. Even today, his work and legacy continue to inspire scientists and dreamers around the world. He was also curious about people and their motivations. In fact, one of his favorite quotes is, "I have not found the secret of life, but I do know that the brain is everything, and the rest is just decoration." This quote reflects his belief that it's our thoughts and perceptions that truly matter. He didn't allow his physical limitations to define him, and instead focused on what he could do. He once said, "The greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance. It is the illusion of knowledge." This quote highlights his humility and his willingness to learn from others. Stephen understood that there is always something more to discover, and he never claimed to have all the answers. He was always open to new ideas and perspectives, and he encouraged others to do the same. He used his fame to raise awareness of motor neuron disease, and became a patron of the Motor Neuron Disease Association. He worked tirelessly to make his research and theories as accurate as possible. He didn't just want to be famous or make a name for himself. He wanted to contribute to our understanding of the universe and leave a lasting legacy. Of course, Stephen's determination didn't just apply to his work. He was also determined to live a full and meaningful life, despite his physical limitations. He didn't let his illness define him, and he never lost his sense of humor. He was known for his wit and his ability to make people laugh, even in the face of adversity. However, as the years passed, his health continued to decline, and it became clear that he needed full-time care. In 2008, he moved into a nursing home near his home in Cambridge. Sadly, he passed away on March 14, 2018, at the age of 76. Stephen was able to present these complex concepts in a way that was both understandable and engaging to the general public. In fact, it's one of the best-selling books of all time, second only to the Bible. Of course, Stephen didn't write the book alone. He had help from a ghostwriter because by that point, he could no longer write or speak. But that's a small price to pay for the incredible amount of knowledge that he shared with the world. He earned his PhD from Cambridge in 1966 and spent the next decade teaching at the university. During this time, he helped to develop the field of quantum cosmology. Now, I don't want to bore you with too many technical details, but essentially he helped scientists understand how the universe began. According to Stephen, the Big Bang Theory doesn't explain what caused the Big Bang. Therefore, it's incomplete. So he focused his attention on what came before the Big Bang and created the theory of a self-created universe. This relief may have impacted the way that they treated little Stephen. By the end of the 80s, he was using a wheelchair full-time and had developed a computerized voice synthesizer called a talker. He lost his ability to speak entirely in the mid-90s and was completely dependent on his machine to communicate. But despite these physical limitations, Stephen continued to make groundbreaking discoveries about the universe. For example, he helped to develop the theory of zero-point energy, which suggests that even a vacuum contains energy. He also made significant contributions to our understanding of black holes. Hawking discovered that black holes can emit particles known as Hawking radiation, which gave him the nickname Cosmic Cup. More importantly, it earned him international recognition and propelled him to fame. Unfortunately, though, instead of being welcomed with open arms into a happy home environment, young Stephen was sent away from the family home to be raised by his grandparents. Apparently, this was because his parents thought that they couldn't handle another child, not to mention that his father didn't like the fact that he wasn't a boy. Stephen would only see his mother and father during school holidays. He visited them separately, seeing his mother for 2 weeks at a time while his father got him for 1 week each holiday. The arrangement clearly upset Stephen, and he felt unloved and unwanted. He was particularly close to his mother, but even she admitted that it was hard for her to show affection towards him. She wrote in a letter that she loved Stephen very much, but there was always something in the way. Clearly, this made Stephen feel somewhat detached and isolated, which may explain why he became such an introvert later in life. It might also explain why he was never married for long. Although he had 2 children, he went through 2 divorces and ended up spending the last 30 years of his life alone. And why was he so successful? Hawking was born on January 1942 in Oxford, England. As a child, Stephen was fascinated by space. He was particularly interested in rockets, which he built out of washing powder boxers and blankets. He would spend hours playing outside in the garden of his grandparents' house, using his imagination to launch himself into space and travel to distant planets. Despite this interest, Stephen didn't get into university. When he applied to Cambridge University, he was rejected because they said that he was too ill to study. They were referring to the condition that Stephen had been suffering from since his early 20s. At first, it was diagnosed as ALS, or amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, but then it was reclassified as motor neuron disease, which is basically the same thing. The thing is, no one really knows what causes ALS. All we know is that it affects the nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord that control voluntary muscle movement. If you're wondering how scientists diagnose ALS, all we can really say is that it's clinical diagnosis based on symptoms. There's no test that can definitively tell us whether or not someone has it. And although doctors can observe certain things to help them reach a conclusion, they're ultimately going off of what the patient tells them. As you can imagine, this made Stephen's situation difficult. He was told that he would unlive much longer than a few years, and it seemed like his dreams of becoming an astrophysicist were over. But this is where the story takes a turn. You see, Hawking was determined not to let his illness define him. Unfortunately, Stephen's health continued to deteriorate throughout the 70s and 80s, and he became increasingly reliant on technology to help him communicate. Stephen published a popular science book in 1988, A Brief History of Time. It was a massive success, selling millions of copies worldwide. In the late 80s and early 90s, Stephen became a media sensation. Now, if you're wondering what makes Stephen Hawking so successful, we'd have to start with his curiosity. Another quality that made Stephen successful was his determination. Despite being told that he wouldn't live long, he never gave up on his dreams. Finally, we'd like to mention Stephen's passion. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and share it with your friends.